Guess who's back? Back again. Shady's back.
No, it is not Shady. It is me, Joe Valver, one of the instructional technology facilitators for the Hamilton Township School District in Hamilton, New Jersey, bringing you yet another episode of EdTech Lunch and Learn Live. Today's topic, transitioning from Zoom to Google Meet. Start the show off just like we do every show with a little bit of housekeeping, okay? For those of you new to EdTech Lunch and Learn Live, welcome. In the top corner of your screen, you should see a short link. That short link will take you to today's show notes, or this slideshow that I'll be going through and referencing occasionally throughout our show, okay? And there are a ton of links to resources to learn about some of the things I cover a little bit more in depth, as well as some of the things I won't have a chance to talk about today, okay? That is a bit.ly short link, and it is case sensitive. So that is a capital ELLL S01.E08, okay? And that is the short link to today's show notes, okay? If you are from the Hamilton Township School District, thank you for joining us. If you have registered for this professional development through My Learning Plan on our district site, then at the end of today's show, in order to receive full credit for your professional development, we will post that exit ticket that you will fill out. You'll have till 9 a.m. tomorrow to fill it out, okay? That exit ticket, again, we'll post the link on the video. You'll see it. We'll post it in the chat, and you can get to the link in the show notes as well. So that's 3 ways you can get to that exit ticket. And again, fill it out by 9 a.m. tomorrow to receive your credit, okay? Speaking of the chat, our chat is available for you to ask any questions you may have during today's PD. My co-workers, Cara and Chris, are manning the chat for today's show. So anything you have to ask, hopefully they're able to answer it. Also, for those in Hamilton that have the exit ticket, there's an opportunity to ask a question. We will email you when we go through those and try and answer your questions the best we can. Okay. If at any point in time you should lose an internet connection, have to get up and leave, whatever the case may be, you can't finish the show, all of our shows are recorded and posted to our YouTube channel the next day for you to watch or rewatch. Okay. Speaking about today's connection, they are live streams, so there's a lot of things that could go into choppiness, loss of sound, loss of internet altogether. And that could be based off of your bandwidth, the bandwidth that I'm using here to stream. So if you have any issues at all, you can always just click that refresh button in the window to refresh, and it'll pick up again as soon as it can to the live point in the video. All right. Again, if you have any issues, it's going to be recorded and we'll post it tomorrow. Okay. So let's get into the goals for today's session. So for today, first, we're going to take a look at some of the differences between Zoom and Google Meet. When the district made the announcement that we would no longer be using Zoom for virtual lessons and conferencing with students, we received a lot of emails and questions about some of the capabilities and features of Zoom and whether or not they could be done in Google Meet or if it just wasn't even possible. So we'll address some of those. We'll learn the different ways you can create Google Meets, as well as have students join the meets you have created. And lastly, we'll show off some of the features and tools of Google Meet and some of those tricks through the use of extensions and websites that you can use to gain back some of those features that you love in Zoom. All right, so what we have here is a list of some of the main differences between Zoom and Google Meet. A lot of these you might be already aware of because you've been letting us know about the things you miss from Zoom during the last week. So the lists on the left are some of the things we're going to touch on today that you can kind of use with Google Meet. And the ones to the right here, such as setting a room password, muting all students, enable or disable chat, enabling or disabling screen sharing for your students or participants, as well as share screen annotation. Those are some of the things that as of right now, as a department, we have not found any solutions for. Now with the set a room password, as we go through creating meets, you'll see that some of those meets, when you create them a certain way, the only way to get into that meet is through having a Hamilton account. So by doing that, we're keeping those meets protected for our district students and teachers. And that kind of goes into the waiting room as well. Nonverbal cues, we'll touch on that a little bit. Using an extension called Nod. We'll touch on Jamboard and another option for whiteboards. And even with breakout rooms, there's a way you can use a hyperlink to create multiple rooms that we'll share with you at the end. Okay. And the biggest question that we've heard over the past week is, how do you see your students while you're presenting? And we'll actually show you that and how to set it all up and how to present a window with whatever you have going on while seeing all your students. So the first thing I want to go over with you is some Google Meet invitation lingo. Now, whether these are the official terminologies that are used for these things, I'm not sure. I think they are, but this is what I'm going to refer to them for today's PD, so that when I say these things, you know what they are. So let's go over today's vocabulary. The first thing we have is our meet nickname. All right, nicknames can be given to meets when they are created through certain methods, and we'll go over that in a little bit. Okay, the second is a meet link. Every single meet that's created has a meet link, and you can see it's meet.google.com followed by a unique 10-letter combo. Okay, and that is the meet link. Next, we have the dial in and pin, and that's for calling in. So not only are these Google Meets used for video conferencing, but someone can actually call in and listen and participate that way as well. And the last one we have down here at the bottom is the Meet invitation email. This is if you added someone, they're going to get an email. All right. That being said, if you use that method with students in kindergarten through 5th grade who do not have email, they're not going to get those invitations when you choose to invite people using that add people method. All right. Here we have all the different ways that you can create a Google Meet. All right. In addition to the different ways you can create Google Meets, I have the invitation, the way students can join. So they can join with the things we just talked about, meet nickname, they can join with the meet link, and they can dial in. All right. Now you can see for the most part, everybody is able to dial in and use a meet link for any of the creation methods. Right. In addition to that, all of these methods also block users from outside the district. So if you don't have a hamilton.k12.nj.us email, you're not going to be able to just join a Google Meet that's in session. All right. You'll have to be admitted, and we'll show that a little bit later. But the first option, the meet nickname, which is one of the preferred methods because you can reuse nicknames, you'll notice you can't do that in Calendar. Okay. And the other thing about Calendar is if you look all the way to the right, one of the big concerns that teachers have had with using Google Meet is, can students join the meet prior? And can they join the meet after the lesson and the teacher is done? And with a calendar, they can. Okay. So when you create a Google Calendar, you're not actually scheduling it for that time. Once you create that calendar and you get that link, you can share that link, and we'll talk about sharing links and how students can join. But that link is live and anybody can jump in it at any point in time because that meet has already been created. That link exists. Okay. So that's why that's red. We don't want to use it. It's great for staff. It's great for parents. But if you're doing virtual lessons and you don't want the students in there before you or after you, we do not want to use Google Calendar. So we're not even going to show you how to do that today. And the same thing applies with Gmail. Gmail recently had a feature on the left-hand side added for starting and joining Google Meets. And one way you do it with the join option, you can't give a nickname, and students can join before and after. So rather than kind of get you confused, I would advise just not using Gmail either. We've got 3 ways that we're going to show you today that are going to, one, allow your students to join with a nickname, a meet link, and if they have to, a dial-in pin. It blocks all of our outside the district users, okay? So you have to admit them, and students can't get in before or after a teacher is in that room, all right? And those 3 methods are going to meet.google.com, creating a room using a nickname, turning Google Classroom integration on if you have a Google Classroom, and the most recent one we discovered is how to use a nickname link to create a permanent meet that you and your students can join, all right? And that's a really neat option that we just discovered this past week. And there's Shia LaBeouf in front of a green screen. That can mean one thing only. It's time to get started. But before we start creating and joining meets, for today's PD session, I'll be using 3 different types of Google accounts. And to keep it from getting confusing, I'm going to have labels pop up on the screen just to keep you reminded as to what account I'm using. So today I'm going to be using a teacher/staff account. I'm going to use my Hamilton email. I'm going to be using a student account. We created a test student account for today's PD so that you can see what your students are going to see. And I'm going to use my personal Gmail so you can see what happens when users outside of our Hamilton domain try to join meets as well. Alrighty, let's get started with our first method of creating a meet, and that's through the Meet website. You can either go to meet.google.com or use the Meet icon in the app launcher, or as many of you come to know it as the waffle. Okay? When we get to the website, we have the option to join or start a meeting. And in this case, I'm starting one for my students to come to, and I'm going to call it Mr. Valver's class. Okay? And now I'm going to hit continue. And I'm going to be taken to the join room window in which I can check and see that my microphone and my camera are both working. I could mute. And I'm going to click join now. Once I get into my room, here's my meeting information. I could see my nickname up at the top. And because I gave it a nickname, it is restricted to Hamilton Township School District emails. Okay, and that was kind of what I iterated earlier, that the only ones that will be able to join right into this meet as of right now are those that are joining with a Hamilton email address. And anyone trying to join your meeting without a Hamilton email will actually have to be admitted to your room, and we'll show you that in a little bit. Down here I can see this link. This link will only work for this meeting as long as I'm in it. Okay, the minute I close out of this meeting and everyone's gone, this link will no longer work. Okay, and then we have our dial-in number. All right. Well, now that I'm in my room, my students should be able to start joining as well. Okay, they can use the nickname that I've given them to go to meet.google.com and join. So let's give it a shot. Okay, here we have our test student account for today's PD. I'm going to get to Meet the same exact way I did as the teacher. I'm going to use that Meet icon in the waffle. And when I get to Meet, I get a little bit of a different option here. Instead of start or join, I have the option to use a meeting code. What is that meeting code? It's the nickname. So I'm going to just type in Mr. Valver's class. And because we already set it up and are in as Mr. Valver, we are met with the same join window where we can see a preview of our camera, our microphone, we can mute it, and we can see who's in the class. And we can see that Mr. Valver's already in there. Okay. Let's try this again and see what would have happened if Mr. Valver wasn't in the classroom. This time I'm going to go in by just typing the website just to show you another way, meet.google.com. And again, it takes me to the same page. So 2 ways to get to the same place. I get the same message, and I'm going to use that same code, Mr. Valver's class. And hit continue. Okay, so instead of being able to get in this time, I get a little message in the bottom corner telling me I can't start meetings. So what happened? Well, if a teacher hasn't created a meet using that nickname, when a student goes to use that nickname, it thinks that that student is trying to start a meet. And we have turned that feature off for all students. Students cannot create meets and they cannot record them. So that's what's happening here. So as a teacher, you want to select a nickname when you're using this method that is very unique. So if there are 5 Mr. Smiths in the district, and there's probably more, you might not want to use Mr. Smith's class because it might be used by the other Mr. Smiths as well. And if you're using it at the same time, only one of you will be able to use it. So pick something unique, include the period number, include your school, something that will be unique to you and your students. This way you can use the same nickname every time you guys want to meet. Let's take a quick look at what a non-Hamilton email sees when they try and join using a Meet code. You can see that the Meet website already looks a little different for personal use versus school use. But nonetheless, I put the code in and I'm going to click join. And what I get is a little message in the bottom corner saying it couldn't find the meeting. You might not be signed in with the right account. And that's because we're not. We're signed in with a Gmail account and not a Hamilton. This is one of the reasons why having students join by going to meet.google.com and using nicknames is a little more secure than giving out the Meet links themselves. Now that we've seen how we can create Meet links using a nickname and how others can join using that nickname, let's look at this same Meet using a link. Now the thing to remember is, even though we used our nickname, the minute we close out of this Google Meet, this link will no longer work. And the next time I use that nickname, a new link is going to get generated. And that's a security precaution that Google Meet takes. So I'm going to take that URL or link, Meet link, and I'm going to use it in our student account and the personal, just like I did before. Okay, here we are with our student account again. And instead of entering the Meet code, Mr. Valver's class, I'm going to use the link that was created. Paste, return. Boom. Here we are. Same exact thing as when I use the nickname. I can see my camera and my microphone options. I can see that Mr. Valver is in the classroom, just as I did before. However, if I go to use this link again after our class is over, it won't get me in. Okay? This is why that nickname is so convenient, because the kids can use the nickname over and over again and get in as long as you're there. Let's try it with my personal Gmail account and see what happens. Now we already tried to join using the Meet code and we saw what happened. Let's paste that link and see what we get. Dum, 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 dum. That link actually gives somebody access to this Meet now. Okay, so before I couldn't with the nickname, but with the link, I now can. However, I can't see who's in here, and I actually have to ask to join. Okay, so let's go ahead and ask and see what Mr. Valver gets on his end. Someone wants to join this meeting. Joe Valver outside Hamilton Township School District? I don't think so. Not with those glasses and that ridiculous haircut. Deny. So what you just saw is exactly what you'll see if someone from outside of our domain or not using the hamilton.k12.nj.us email tries to join using that Meet link from right here. Okay? And you can either admit them or deny them. It's entirely up to you. Hopefully now you feel a little more comfortable using the Google Meet website to create meets for you and your students to join. We utilize the unique nickname so that your students can join the same way every time, making it easy for them, their parents, and for you. This method of creating a Google Meet also ensures that our meetings and our virtual lessons are safe from anybody coming in outside of our district. Now let's continue by hopping over to Classroom and see how we can utilize that platform to create a Meet as well. When I go into my classroom, I'm going to use this Google Meet demo I've set up. You'll notice on the stream heading, there's an option to generate a Meet link. I can click this here, or if I go into the gear for settings, I'll see there's an option for Meet. If I click Generate Meet Link, I'm now given a unique Meet link for my Google Classroom. I can copy this, or if I ever have to, I can reset this link to generate a new one at any point in time. When the button underneath is set to visible for students, they will be able to see this Meet link on the top of the classroom stream. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to click Save to save my Google Meet link. Yep, and there it is. Our classroom Meet link is now available at the top of our stream for all of your students, co-teachers, and yourself to be able to click to get into your classroom Meet whenever you're holding a virtual lesson. Okay? The nice thing about this link that I mentioned earlier, it could be copied from here or in settings and pasted on any number of resources you have available to students and parents. So if you use the Clever website, if you use an app like Remind, even if you have a shared document and you post your Google Classroom Meet link in there, those links will all take the students to the same room. And no matter what link they click on, the same rules apply for classroom meets. Students cannot get into a classroom meet unless the teacher is already present. Okay? So I know a lot of questions have been coming in about, is there a waiting room option in Meet? Well, there's no actual waiting room where students will kind of sit tight and wait to be admitted, but the students can't just hop into a Meet without you being there. So when you're ready to do your lessons, you click on that link, and once you're in the room, now students will have that ability to get in. And the same thing when you leave. Once all the students are out and you have left the classroom Meet, students will no longer be able to get into that classroom without you being there. Okay. Another benefit to using this classroom Meet link is that it's more secure and safe than creating it through a calendar or the Gmail app, for instance. This classroom Meet link will only allow students to join when they're logged in with a Hamilton account. Okay, so you don't have to worry about any outside accounts popping in because they got a hold of your link. It's only available to someone with a hamilton.k12.nj.us email, making it extremely secure for you and your students. Let's take a look and see what happens on a student account when trying to join the classroom Meet when a teacher isn't present. Here I have my test student account, and you can see the classroom Meet link is at the top of the stream. If I click on this link, this is the error that students will see if you as a teacher are not currently in the Meet. If a student has clicked the link a little early, they can either click the reload button and try refreshing the screen, and as the teacher, once you're in the room, they'll be able to click reload and have that join option. They can also close out of this window and click on the Meet link a little bit later. Let's hop back to our teacher account and start the Meet and join as a student. Here we are in as our teacher. We're ready to start our Meet for today's lesson. I click on the link. My camera, my microphone, everything looks good. I'm going to hit join now. I've got my invite information up here, but my students don't need any of this information because the link is already in the classroom. Okay. As the teacher, I'm ready to go. I'm just waiting for students now to join me during this Google Meet lesson. So let's hop back into our student account and try and get in. Okay, here we are back with our test student account. We're in classroom, and here's that link we clicked on earlier. Let's see what happens when we click on it now that our teacher is already in the room. Perfect. What we have now, instead of getting that message letting us know that the teacher isn't present and try to come back a little later or click the reload button, we now have the option to join the meet. And we can even see that our teacher, and if there were other students present, we'd see their little icons over here as well, letting us know they're all in the room. So all we have to do now is click join.
And there's our teacher right there. Oh, and there's a lot of feedback.
2 microphones going at the same time. So what we'll do now is we're going to end this meeting. So as the teacher, I would ask all the students to leave. If I had to, I could go up to the participants window and remove them one at a time. And we'll see what happens when a student tries to get back into the room after the lesson is ended. Okay, so as the student, I'm going to end my call. Here we are as the teacher. All my students, all my students are gone. I'm going to click end call. I am done with my meeting lesson. I can post some more information, do whatever I have to in classroom, but I am done with Meet for today's lesson. As a student, if I wanted to get back into that Meet real quick to maybe meet with a couple of my friends, or I had another question I had to ask my teacher that I forgot to bring up during the lesson, I click on the link. Can't get in. Once that call is ended, all the participants have left and the teacher has left, students will not be able to get back into that Google Classroom Meet. And this is one of the great advantages of utilizing the Meet link in Classroom. One last thing I want to show you with this Classroom link, just as I did before with the Meet nicknames, is what will someone who gets a hold of this Classroom link with a personal account see if they try to join. So I just copied our Classroom link, and I could have copied it from here as well. And I'm going to open up my personal account, and I'm going to paste that Classroom link right here and hit return. And there we go. So with a personal account, using that Classroom link, you'll get this error, check your meeting code. So they're not even having the opportunity to be permitted when you are in a meeting. And this again is just an added security and safety measure that we have when we create these Google Meets using Classroom and our Hamilton accounts. So now that we've talked about everything we need to know with using Classroom and the Classroom integration link, I want to show you that new option we've discovered this past week, and that's utilizing the nickname link. So we're going to pop back into our presentation to look at the instructions for doing that. We're back in our show notes or presentation for today, and what we're looking at is some directions on how to create the permanent nickname link. And this is a trick that I discovered last week while using our Classroom Meet for our support staff Google Apps course. I kept noticing that the link at the top of Google Classroom had the word lookup in it. And every time we would go into that meet, the nickname was always the same letter combination. And basically what I tried out was I tried using that first part of the link with a nickname that I wanted to use after that /. And sure enough, it worked. Okay, so instead of having my students go to meet.google.com and type in Mr. Valver, I could give them a link that is meet.google.com/lookup/ Mr. Valver's class. Okay, and that's what you have here. So if you're looking to do this, you're just going to follow the steps here. And this is great for teachers that want the security of using a nickname but want an easy link for students to click instead of having to go to the Meet website and type in the nickname every time, okay? Once you've created this permanent nickname link, you can post it anywhere just as you would post that link from Classroom. So you get the benefits of having a permanent link like you would in Classroom, but you don't have to create a Classroom. You can use that nickname just as you would if you went to meet.google.com. It's kind of the Hannah Montana of going to meet.com and Google Classroom. You get the best of both worlds. So, not that I know much about Hannah Montana, but I do know that she does get the best of both worlds. So, just looking at these directions again, copy the URL, you add your nickname at the end, and now that new URL becomes your permanent nickname link. Okay, I'm going to back out of here and I'm going to show you an example of what I did for our upcoming meet that I'm going to show you in a little bit. So here is an example of just some directions that I made in a Google Doc that I gave to our tech department for joining the Google Meet I have scheduled for a little bit. So before trying to join Google Meet, make sure you are logged in with your hamilton.k12.nj.us account and click the link below. And there it is, meet.google.com/lookup/ and there's my classroom nickname, Mr. Valver's class. All right. And just in case there's an issue with it, I made sure to add the additional or visit meet.google.com and enter the nickname. And you can see the nickname down here, Mr. Valver's class, is the same as the nickname at the end of my permanent nickname link. All right. And again, this is a great option for those of you that don't have classrooms, especially the specials teachers in elementary schools. All right. Or if you just have another platform that you're using, this is a link that you can post there to get those students in the same meet every time without them going in before you're there. Okay. Now that we've discussed the different ways you can create a Google Meet or schedule a Google Meet, we've shared some of the ways you can have students join your meets. Let's actually jump into a Google Meet so I can show you some of the features as well as extensions you can use with Google Meet that'll give you some capabilities you've grown to love in Zoom. Now, before I get into this meet, one of the questions that we've been receiving a lot is how do I present my screen and see all my students at the same time using Google Meet? And there's actually 3 ways you can do this. The first way is using 2 monitors. If you have a monitor hooked up to your laptop or your desktop, you can have a monitor for your Google Meet window so you can see all your students there. And on your second monitor, have everything you're presenting for today's lesson. The other option is using 2 devices. If you have 2 laptops, if you have a laptop and a tablet, you can join the Meet twice and use one device to view all your students in grid or gallery view and use your other device to present. The view I'm going to show you today that I think a lot of you are going to be using is if you only had one laptop available, you'll actually split your display in half and use one window on half your display to present to your students and the other half of your display to view the window for Meet and see all of your students. If you want to know more about the other 2 options of using 2 monitors or 2 devices, at the end of this presentation and in our show notes is a link to an Eric Kurtz video called 3 Ways to See Your Students When Presenting Your Screen. This video details all the methods that I'm about to go that I had mentioned, including the one I'm going to show you right now. Now, there are a few ways you can resize your screen in order to have 2 windows open at the same time. One option is by simply coming up to the restore icon and changing the size of your screen this way. Now for me, I'm going to go right down the middle or close to it. And then if you click on the 3 dots in Chrome, you'll just open up a new window. And now I can take this window and position that right next to it. And again, you can change the size of these by hovering over the little edge of your window and dragging those windows in either direction. Another way to do this is using the assistance of an extension such as this Duelist extension that allows you to choose the size of the windows you want on your display. So if I click on this extension, I can see the different layouts of what I want. Okay, so my current window, I maybe want on the left-hand side and I want it to be half the screen, or maybe I want it to take up 2/3 of the screen, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to go with half. And what will happen is it actually opens up another window to take up the other half. Okay. So those are the two ways that you can split your display so that you have a window on one half of your display and a window on your other half. And even with the use of an extension like Duelist, you can still move them around a little bit. If I click on that extension again, which you'll see it's kind of hard to see, so what you have to do is if you did want to resize it, you open it up a little bit more so you can see it, and there it is. And you know what? I want to change it to 7 and 3. And there we go. Okay. For me today, though, I'm going to stick with half and half. Perfect. Now, on one display, you'll get all your resources for today's lesson. So for me, I've got everything bookmarked. I'm going to go ahead and open up a Jamboard window. Jamboard is a great resource to utilize a whiteboard feature. Another one that you can use is through the Google app Canvas. Okay. And I'm going to get those two open. And I'm going to open up another tab because maybe I have a slideshow presentation that I want to share. And let's do one more. I'm going to open up that resource document. Perfect. And now on my other window, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my Meet. And I could go to my Meet any number of ways. We discussed it earlier, the different ways that you can set up the Meets and share your links. So for today's Meet, I actually invited the technology department to join me to be my class. And I've shared with them a link I created using a nickname for my Google Meet. So here you can kind of see I just wrote a quick little instruction on this document. Before trying to go to Google Meet, make sure you're logged in with your hamilton.k12.nj.us account. And you can either click the link below or click meet.google.com and enter the classroom nickname there. Okay? This makes it very clear how you want your students to join the classroom. I'm going to use the link. Okay? There we go. So now that I have my Meet up, I've got my classroom resources. I can see no students are in yet because I'm not in yet. My nickname for my class is right here, so I know that worked. All that's left is for me to join and wait for my students to come. So let's do that. So while I'm waiting for my students to join, I'm going to hide my invite link because they all know how to get in already. I can see a number of different tools and extensions that are new based off of what we rolled out through our Google Admin Console that can help you better manage your Google Meet sessions. I can also see a lot of the icons that I've already had access to thanks to the features of Google Meet. So while I'm waiting for my students to come in, I might be getting some things prepared and waiting for them to join. I'm just going to pop my camera off. And maybe I'll just mute my mic and give my students a chance to get into the classroom, talk to one another a little bit before I get started. At this point, you can even select to present and have a slide up that's telling your students, I'll be with you in a moment, talk amongst yourselves, how was your weekend? Or give them a do now even. Now, before my students start joining, or coworkers in this instance, I want to talk about two features real fast. At the top, the chat box, which when I click on it, it slides open. I can type messages. My students can type messages. Okay. To hide it, you just click back on the main screen. And the people tab. That brings up all the people in your chat. And as they come in, because you're the owner of this Meet, you'll be able to do certain things with those participants, such as mute, remove, that other participants won't be able to do. And we'll get into that in a little bit once we have some participants join us. Now that it's the time I told my students, or coworkers in this case, to join the meet, we should see them start rolling in relatively soon, even though they could have joined a little earlier because I was in the room already. And here we've got Cara and Maria. Thanks for joining us today. We'll give everybody a little bit more time to hop on. Maria, if you'd like to say hello to everybody, feel free to.
Hi guys, hope everyone's well.
And there's Chris. And Chris followed my directions. He muted his mic upon entering. Thank you, Chris. If you'd like to say hi, you can unmute and say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
We'll give everyone a few more moments to come in. But now that I have a couple participants in, I'm going to go ahead and click on this People tab again to show you what this looks like. So now, instead of just me, I've got Cara, I've got Chris, and Maria all in this list of people. Okay, and if I click on them, I can choose to mute them if they weren't muted. Okay, and next to the mute, you'll see this little remove icon. I can remove them as well. Okay, if they become too big of a distraction. Okay, one of the features that Zoom does have that Google Meet unfortunately does not have is the option to mute all. So what you'll have to do is essentially come in and mute each student one at a time. Okay.
Hello, everybody.
And there's Neil.
How's it going?
Everyone say hello to Neil. Neil, I'm just going to go ahead and quick mute you real fast so I can show the folks at home.
How rude.
Hi, Neil.
Button and hit mute. Now Neil is muted. He would have gotten a little message letting him know that he is muted. Now, when you mute your participants or students, they do have the capability to unmute themselves. Okay, so it's not a permanent mute. Keep that in mind. Okay, just like before, I can click off to the left-hand side to hide this people option. Okay. If I wanted to, I could open that chat box up and let everybody know if they want to send a message to the district so that they can all see it during this PD. Feel free to chat in the chat box and send your messages of love and well-being. Okay, and you can participate in the chat as well. Another question that we've been getting a lot during this transition to Meet is, can the chat be enabled or disabled? That you don't have the capability to disable this feature. It's permanent, but as we go into a little bit more time of remote learning, I'm sure we'll see plenty more updates to come with Meet. Okay, so I'm going to again click in the center here to hide this. I could see these little pop-ups come up letting me know that people are chatting, just in case you're not paying attention. Also, the little chat bubble gets a little badge icon. And now we've already resized our screens to be able to present to these guys in a little bit. But what I'm going to do now is make it a little larger because I'm not presenting. All I have to do is click this little restore or maximize, and now I've got everybody nice and big. And guys, if you have work you want to do, feel free to flip your camera off and do whatever you got to for the rest of this time being while I go over some stuff with the folks at home. So as they all turn their mics off and get back to work, because God only knows we are very busy, I'm going to go over some of these other features, and including some of the extensions that I had mentioned we'd touch on that kind of give you that little Zoom feel. Okay, so right now, if I come down here to the three dots, I can change my layout, and this is built in to Meet, and it's set on auto right now. I can choose to go sidebar, where whoever I'm looking at and pinning, they can go to the front. Okay, whoever's speaking moves to the front, and I've got everybody on the side here. The other option spotlight. Whoever's talking is going to be the only person I'm looking at. If I thumbnail someone, even though other people are talking, that's the only person I'm going to see. Okay. Last one, which was an update a few weeks back, is the grid mode. Okay. This grid view, again, does a very similar view to Zoom. Okay. And these, again, are all built in with Google Meet. Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit about the extension that has been pushed out recently called Google Meet Grid View. And that's this little guy right here. Okay. Welcome, John. John, you can go ahead and turn your webcam off if you have some things you need to do. Yes, Neil, I will be sharing my screen in a little bit. So with this grid view, right now I can see it's turned off. Okay. There's a line through it letting me know it's not being used. And there's also a bunch of options I can go through to set on and off. Okay. I'm going to throw my glasses on here so I can read them. What I'm going to do right now is turn it on. Okay. Okay. And why was I the only person to show up? Because only participants with video will show up. And since no one has their video on, it doesn't show them. So I'm going to turn that off so you can see what it looks like. And there we go. There's our grid view. I can highlight speakers just like in Zoom. So whoever's speaking, you'll get a little box around them. In this case, it's me. I can include myself or not include myself in the grid. I'm gone. Let me turn my camera back on so you can see my beautiful face. There I am. And I can enable grid view by default. So this way, every time I come into Meet, this is on. Okay. So another extension that we enabled is this nod extension. Okay. And you'll also notice it up here on your extension. Those are the two that we pushed out this past week, grid view and nod. This is a way for your students to participate using nonverbal cues, just like they did in Zoom, okay? And students can raise their hand, give a thumb up, clap, etc., okay? And you'll get these little notifications down here letting you know that such and such has raised their hand, and they'll stay there until you close them out, okay? So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm kind of done chatting with everybody. I want to present, okay? And this has probably been the #1 question since coming over to Meet is how can I present and see all my students? Excuse me as I get a little water. Now that I'm done, I'm going to click that resize option in my window and voila, my screen goes back to the size I had it earlier when I got all set up for this Meet. I've got my content that I'm ready to share with everybody to the left. And I'm ready to present. So I'm going to start off. We'll leave the document up. I'm going to hit present now. And I'm not going to do my whole screen because if I do my whole screen, they're going to see all of this Meet option as well. They're going to see all the little windows of themselves and they're going to get that like Inception view where it's going to be them, and we don't want that. I'm not going to do Chrome tab just yet either, because over here on the left-hand side, I've got a couple tabs that I'm going to bounce back and forth between during my lesson. Okay. So what I'm going to choose is a window. And when I do that, up pops a box and says, well, which window do you want to share with your group? And in this case, here's my Meet window. I can see all the little icons in the back. And then here's my HTSD online learning resource document. And that's what I have right here. And that's the window I want to share. So I'm going to select it and hit share. Once I do that, I get a little message saying you are presenting your screen. Okay. I can still see all the lovely little icons of all the participants in my group. If they had their cameras on, I could see them. And I can go through this document now and they're all following along with what I'm doing, okay? And the same thing works as if I went to a presentation. I can go slide through slide and discuss the different things for my lesson that day. Okay. One thing I'm going to show you real quick, in case you have some confusion about this grid view using the extension versus the grid view in Meet, is what you'll see if you're using the wrong grid option. Okay. So right now I'm going to come down to the three dots and I'm going to click change my layout. I'm going to make sure it's set to tiled. They call it tiled. I'm going to stick with grid. And I'm going to turn this grid option off up here. Now what you'll see is a much more limited view. And this is what a lot of you have probably been seeing when you've tried to do this, okay? You're only getting this little message saying you're presenting to everybody and maybe your top 3 or 4 of your students that are in attendance. So if we click that little grid icon back on, well, now there's everybody again, and I can watch everybody. I can show them what I'm doing on this side of the screen, and everybody's happy. To show you what a student is going to see, I'm going to flip it over to Cara real quick, and Cara's going to show you a little bit what her screen looks like as a student. And you'll notice it's a little different depending on how that student's set up. They can use the grid app as well, or they can watch just your presentation. There's a few options for them to do. Okay, so now that I've kind of showcased that grid feature, I've showcased presenting. We talked about the chat a little bit. One of the other things I wanted to address, a question that came up recently about presenting, was, is there a way to stop students from being able to present? So I know in Zoom, you can enable or disable the screen sharing feature. Currently in Meet, there is no way to do it. That is just one of those expectations that we have to set until that feature hopefully comes along. Real quick, we're going to jump here into our Jamboard. And Jamboard is a whiteboard app that allows you to more or less use it as a whiteboard. Okay? You've got a number of different tools. Okay. You can change the background on it, and I'm not going to spend too much time going into Jamboard. But it's one of those options, again, that is available in Zoom, that utilizing Jamboard or this Google app called Canvas, you can get a very similar option. And there's my signature, probably just about as good as it is in real life. But you can have this option with students. And one of the nice things about the Jamboard especially is that this can be shared with your students as well. Okay, you can either copy that link and share it with them right then and there. Just drop it right in the chat. They can then hop on their computers, participate. Okay, if there's any materials that you gave them ahead of time, like access to the slideshow or the document, they can all collaborate and work on that at the same exact time. Okay. So all of these are a bunch of tools and extensions that you can use to help manage your Google Meet sessions. Now, one of the things that I know Zoom has as well is the feature to use breakout rooms. Okay? While Google Meet does not have that capability, you could easily set up a number of meets, just like I did here, using a document and creating a couple nickname links, and have those meets all open at the same time and hop back and forth between those to work with your small groups. And we'll have a video, a link in our show notes for you to watch an in-depth video on how to do that, as well as a guide to go with it. Okay. So I think that is all I need everybody for right now to showcase the grid view while presenting. If any of you guys have any questions or anything you'd like to say to everybody at home before leaving, feel free to hop back on, turn your mic back on, and say your goodbyes. Otherwise, thanks for joining us.
Bye, guys.
So long, everybody.
Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Neil. Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Chris. And then there was Cara. All right. So now that everybody's gone and said their goodbyes, what I'm going to do is end this meeting. And because I created this meet using a nickname, Mr. Valver's class, none of these students will be able to join or rejoin this meet now that I've ended it. And again, that's one of the benefits of using a nickname or creating a link through Google Classroom. Oh, and there was one other thing I wanted to show and share. I'm going to pop back into this room real fast. And it has to do with recording. If you haven't used the record feature yet in Meet, it's down here at the 3 dots or the snowman icon. And it's the top option called Record Meeting. When you click that record button, it's going to start recording your session. And when it's done, or when you hit stop or when you end the call, that recording will then save to your Google Drive, and it'll actually create a folder in there called Meet Recordings, and it'll be in there along with any other recordings that you do with Google Meet. Something that we came across last week with a couple teachers was we were finding that teachers that have a co-teacher or some other teachers or even administrators, any kind of staff account in their Google Classroom, if those faculty members were entering the Meet before the teacher was, because they don't have student accounts, they can get in ahead of time. If that teacher or co-teacher went in first, even though the teacher was the one that hit record when she got into the room, the recordings were going to the co-teacher or the other teacher or principal in that room. So recordings will go to the person that is in the room first. So when it comes to staff, if you're the teacher of that class and you want to record the meetings, you want to be the first one in the room, then hit record, and that will go to your drive. If it doesn't, it's not a big deal. The other teacher or staff member can just transfer ownership of that recording file to you so you can get it. But that was something that we saw happening, again, last week with recordings not ending up in the teacher who hit the record button. Okay, so now that we've got that done, I got to share that little bit of information with you. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Let's pop back into our presentation. Actually, hold on one second. I've got some news to share. Over the weekend, I found this application that allows you to do annotations. Let me see. On websites, and it can actually be recorded through Google Meet and shown through Google Meet. So you can annotate any web page with this extension, but it only had a limited free version of this annotation feature. And our technology manager, Jim O'Boyle, just sent me a link that he found that they are actually offering a upgrade code till the end of the year. So real quickly, I'm going to pop into the web store and we're going to add this extension and see if we can't do this. So you can follow along and be able to do this for yourself. And this is awesome. I don't know if you guys are as excited as I am for this. I feel like I've got everybody on the edge of their seats right now in anticipation, because this is one of the things that teachers like the most about Zoom, was being able to annotate any page using, especially a lot of the math teachers that use Think Central. They go through a lot of the worksheets and things like that with their students on those web pages. This will be huge. Oh, look at that. It already signed me in with Google. I'm going to sign out though, just so you can see me do it. All right. I click on the link or the extension now that it's on there. I hit sign in, log in with Google. All right, we're logged in. Now, how do I upgrade? Oh, here we go, upgrade. So once you are logged in with Google, you come down to settings. Here's the upgrade option. And it's normally, looks like $10 a year. Oh, there it is. Upgrade using code, continue. This tab, there it is, hashtag remote learning. How upset do you think everybody would be if this suddenly froze and dropped out? You want to talk about cliffhanger. Oh, was that it? Your plan has been upgraded successfully. Thank you. Hit OK. Let's go with our Google Doc here. And we're going to click on this guy and turn it on. We have to refresh maybe. Refresh the web page. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here's the mouse. I can click around. And then, wow, there's a highlighter. Yes, there is. And an eraser. Oh, wait, nope, that's not it. Oh, it is an eraser. Okay, there it goes. I can drop text boxes in. This is awesome. Oh, you can even take a picture of when you're done. What does it do? Take a screenshot and then probably copy it, capture. Wow, okay, so this is pretty cool. Wow, this is really exciting and fun and unexpected. We will share out some information, I guess, after this show about this extension, maybe make a little guide for you as well. But this looks like another thing we can check off, that you can do annotations on web pages now when in a Google Meet session. How about that? All right. Okay, let's hop back. What were we going to do? Recap. That's it. Let's hop back into our show notes. So today we went over a lot of different things, features and tools that we can use with Meet, extensions and websites to give us some of those features that we love from Zoom. Are we going to be able to do everything we did in Zoom in Meet? No, not at the moment. However, think about when we first made this transition to remote learning and how difficult that was for so many of us to transition to this new style of learning. But we came together and we figured it out. And the same thing applies to this. Is it the best solution? No, it's not. But it's the safest and most secure for our students and for you. And we're going to figure it out together. So with that being said, here are a bunch of the resources that I had mentioned a few times during today's show. Some of these are things that we've created and shared over the past few weeks. Some of them are from different educators and trainers throughout the country. Okay, so we've got things like the breakout rooms, how to use breakout rooms. We mentioned that. Here's that link to create a permanent link that I showed you. So creating that nickname link that you can use wherever. All right, so that the students don't have to always go to meet.google.com and type in the nickname. What else? We got directions for students. There's a ton of stuff here that we've created and we've found. All right. You also probably have noticed that our exit ticket link is sitting at the bottom of our screen. So you can go ahead and type in that short URL to get to the exit ticket to fill that out, because we are ending and wrapping up our show. Again, that has to be filled out by 9 a.m. for all of you HTSD staff and faculty members that are looking to get PD credit for today's show. Okay. Today, we've got an extra page of resources, and this is by a man named Eric Kurtz from Ohio. He has a blog called Control Alt Achieve, and in it, he has a ton of Google resources for just about every application Google offers for you to learn how to use them and integrate them into your classroom. And since we went remote, He's been doing a ton of different tutorials. They're short little things. You can see the times next to each one of the topics, but they're short little snippets about how to do a lot of the things we covered today. So if you need a refreshing, you don't want to watch the whole video we did today, you can pop into some of these short little clips and get what you're looking for, okay? One of the things I mentioned as well, 3 ways to see your students when presenting, okay? Today we covered dividing the screen and using 2 sides of your laptop display. In that video at the bottom there, he goes over hooking up an additional display or using 2 devices, all right? Again, check out some of those resources. The short code for the short URL for our exit ticket is at the bottom. If at any point in time you need anything from myself, Cara, or Chris, we are always here to help you. We are more than happy to follow up on an email, jump into a meet with you and go over some of these features that we did to clarify them for you. Whatever you might need assistance with, we are here to help you and get through this together. Because I am the host of the show, I can say whatever I want, and I have one last announcement to make. Sadly, this might be my last show for EdTech Lunch and Learn Live. I recently accepted a position as a network specialist and will be leaving as a technology facilitator on June 30th. The past 4 years here have been more than I could have ever expected. I truly appreciate being able to share with you all my knowledge and passion for technology, as well as allowing me to be a part of your classrooms, your faculty meetings, as well as just school, the school community in general. That being said, part of the silver lining is that on July 1st, when I start that network specialist job, it'll still be here in Hamilton, so you haven't gotten rid of me yet. So, but again, it's been a pleasure being one of your technology facilitators. I truly have enjoyed and learned so much in the past 4 years and look forward to serving and supporting all of you in a different role in the future. Again, here's our contact information. If you need anything, reach out to us. And that's all. Thanks for tuning in and stay safe.
Guess who's back?